And students are here. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes to allow other folks to still log on in case they're running a couple of minutes behind. I'm Hannah Hearing. I'm a current graduate student in the higher education program and a graduate assistant in the Office of Admission. Please feel free to mute yourselves. You can turn your cameras off if you'd like. I mean, we would love to see your faces if you're feeling bold and want to be on camera, but please do not feel like you have to do so. This will be very laid back and chill, so please hang tight for a few minutes and we'll get kicked off.
So it's looking like the number count is staying a little stagnant. So maybe we should kick it off. My name is Noah Schlieder. I'm an admissions counselor for the college, and there I am. There's my name. And we'll just let's go around and we can all introduce ourselves. Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am Rachel Riley, Assistant Director of Admissions for the Mortgage College of Education. And Noah, Bryce, and Hannah are taking charge here, but you'll see me in a little bit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bryce. I am also a graduate assistant within the Mortgage Office of Admissions. And I am a graduate student. I'm a first-year higher education master's student.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And Hannah, you already introduced yourself, so you're good. So today's presentation is all about life in Denver. Like, what is it like to live here? What is it like to move here? And we just wanted to give some actual students' perspectives. And actually, I am a recent alumnus of the program, of the higher ed program. Sorry about that. And so I can give my own perspective as a student, as a former student, and Bryce and Hannah are going to really, they're going to lead the way for most of this. So, and also we want to let you have the chance to ask questions too. So I know that this is scheduled for an hour. We are not going to be talking for an hour for sure. This will be, 20 minutes of us talking ish. And then we want to really open it up for you to ask questions. Yeah, so think about questions that you have as we're going through this, and then there'll be a large chunk of time that you can ask your questions. And here are all the different topics that we're going to cover. And Rachel, is the next one a poll question? Great. So where will you be moving?
And even if you already live here in Denver, not moving, we're excited that you're joining us. So please make that Colorado bar shine. Love to see that. But let's see who will prevail today, which region of the world.
I'm shocked with the leader so far. This is the first.
I am shocked. So
this is the first.
Your seats, friends. Noah and I have never seen this in 5 years. Are we ready? Shocked. The South is winning. The South is going to move here. Hannah is very excited as she hails from the great state of Texas. I was hoping for the West Coast to prevail because I like to say West Coast, as I hail from California. And I'm so sorry, Noah.
Only 2 from the Midwest?
I'm so sorry for you.
I'm from Indiana.
So, well, with that, thank you for participating. Actually, I wasn't sharing. Was I sharing? Sharing the results. So you can see that. But like I have said, for every time that we do this poll, it's pretty representative. This was a little bit skewed, but it's pretty representative of your program, of the Mortgage College of Education, and of the University of Denver and Denver as a whole, to see folks from all over the world. So I think that's really awesome, so that you're not just going to be hanging out with people that you've known your whole life. You're going to get a wide array of perspectives from around the world. So with that, I will stop talking and hand it back to Noah.
And I think I'm just going to hand it off to Bryce or Hannah. Who wants to start with moving to Denver? What was your experience?
I mean, I can start. I
have lived in Colorado for the majority of my life, since the first like 18 months. But I currently live in Inglewood, just right directly under the little square on the bottom that's got the university logo. So like right directly under that, and like 10 minutes south of campus. But I have lived in Colorado and been in Denver for a very long time. And I love Denver. I think that the best neighborhood is kind of hard to generalize just because everywhere in Denver is honestly really great. Everyone is super friendly, super outgoing, super helpful. And cars probably, but you don't really like absolutely need one. Denver's a very walkable city. It's pretty safe too. So I think that a car is really up to you whether or not you want to bring it. Either way, you're going to be fine. And Denver's super pet friendly. Everybody has pets. I have a dog. Almost all apartment complexes are going to be pet friendly. A lot of the houses are pet friendly. So anywhere you go, really, it's going to be a lot of fun and a good choice.
Yeah, and Rachel showcasing her beautiful dog as well. It, as Bryce mentioned, that is one thing that I certainly noticed because I came from a very rural community in North Texas. So whenever I came to Colorado, like nobody has like pets on leashes where I come from. They just roam. That's just what they do. You just let them out, they go in the yard, and that's it. So whenever I came about, like I saw everybody outside walking their dogs, like on almost every block in the city. And then just going to like the breweries, hanging out, like people have their dogs sitting outside on the patio, hanging out on summer days. Like it's very, very pet friendly. There are going to be some questions that we go over here in a couple of minutes about things to consider whenever you're moving to Denver. But in relation to pets, in case any of you have larger breed animals, that is something to look into because there is some regulations around having larger breeds in certain areas of Denver, like specifically like pit bulls or Rottweilers. So definitely check into that if you do have a larger breed animal. But I help, as Rachel said, from Texas. I moved to the Denver area about almost 3 years ago now. I worked professionally for a couple of years in the Denver area before I became a graduate student. But I live and have been living in the Littleton neighborhood and town, city area for those entire 3 years. Whenever I was moving and making the move, I only visited Denver one time for 48 hours. And in that time, I toured like 6 different apartment complexes. It was just like a bam, 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 tried to find an apartment complex as fast as I could anyhow. Eventually I landed on one that did not require a pet deposit, and that is how they got my signature. So that is something to consider. Like most places do require a pet deposit and a monthly pet rent, so something to keep in mind. I like the Littleton area a lot. It's a small suburb. It's just smaller. It's not as city as living in the Denver city limits. I certainly value having a little bit more green space and less like city urban type neighborhood, just because it's the polar opposite of what I grew up with. So I wanted a little bit more space, a little bit more greenery around me. But even so, living in the Denver city limits, there's parks everywhere. There are a lot of green spaces. Sometimes they're hidden here and there, but they're a lot of fun, and we'll definitely touch on like hiking, walking, things to do outside as well. But as you do see on that map, that just kind of lists all the different neighborhoods. And there is a graduate student resource guide, which we have it posted in several places, but the easiest place to find it is the admitted student Facebook page. And I believe that's exactly where this graphic came from. So if you need to refer back to it or need to zoom in or anything, definitely check that out. But as Bryce said, you can't really go wrong as far as moving to any of these. Now, you do want to consider commute time and what is going to go into all of that, which we will tackle transportation a little bit later on as well. But the further you go out from the Denver city limits, I will say the cost of living, it's not drastically different, but you will see like the cost of rent gets a little bit lower. So living in the proximity of Denver is a little bit expensive. And that changes per person, what you consider expensive. But in my opinion, coming from rural North Texas, definitely expensive. And then I just thought the suburb, it was a better fit for me personally. I have no issues with my neighbors at all. I have mostly older folks in the Littleton area. It's mostly older folks, retired community, as well as families. So mostly quiet for the most part, very, very chill. One thing I will note is like eating places, like the further you get away from Denver itself, like 24 hours, they start to lessen. So like going to McDonald's even, or random fast food places, they're not always open all 24 hours, including like shopping areas as well. So just something to consider as far as like convenience if you want to make a midnight run to get some snacks or something. So just think about those types of things for sure.
And I'll chime in just for a little bit here as a mid-30 person with a family. So some of you might be in my boat. I am even farther south than Hannah and Bryce. I live in Highlands Ranch, and basically, if you look at this map here, you can go away from the university, but just know that when you go north, and if you plan on taking the car as a transportation, the only way to go is I-25. There's just one highway that goes right through the middle, and if you're trying to get through there almost any time of day, the traffic is awful. So the farther north you go up, the harder it's going to be for your commute if you're traveling by car. But like east and west, it's not so, traveling east and west in Denver isn't so bad. It's really traveling north and south that the traffic is really bad. So you if you're looking at like the northern suburbs, the commute can be pretty hard, even though it doesn't look that far on the map. Whereas the southern suburbs, it's not nearly as bad. So I just wanted to chime in with the dad logistic comment. Okay, I'll pass it off.
Do you all want me to share, since I live in the city?
Yeah, you're like the urbanites.
Yeah, I live right here on the map, looking at the Cheeseman Park Botanic Gardens area. I've lived here for about almost 4 years, and I don't get on the highway. So I live north of campus, and I don't take I-25. I'm just on surface streets, and it takes me about 15 minutes to get to campus. I do know multiple students during their time that have lived up here in what we call the Highlands, or in Glendale, which is this white area, white on the map area. And then, but there's a lot of different housing options. So, you know, there's a lot of different houses or apartments right around the university where landlords or apartment complexes will almost like exclusively rent to college students. And the nice thing about the University of Denver is our student population is basically 50% undergrads, 50% graduate students. And so when I say student housing, there aren't a ton of undergrads comparatively to grad students. So it definitely is possible to live in an area or a house with, if you're looking for that option, of grad students, right? So if you want to have a more professional graduate student experience, you can have that even living right around the university. And I think just the car perspective for the programs that have practicum, internship, student teaching, it's probably going to be your best bet to have a car, just because of managing traffic, class schedule, internship, practicum, student teaching hours, all within your day. It can make things a little bit faster.
Awesome. And that these are just kind of some general questions that we had came up with that we feel are especially helpful when you are searching for some housing. So I'm going to read them off just from an accessibility standpoint. But questions to ask are: when is the rent going to be due? First of the month, middle of the month, end of month, sublease situation, directly leasing. How do residents and guests enter the building? So is it indoor, outdoor facility, key code, regular key? What is the expected turnaround time on maintenance requests? That is very important. Definitely ask that question. Do units come with a washer and dryer in unit, or is there a laundry room on site? certainly a valuable question. Is subletting even allowed? Is first and or last month's rent due by move-in? And then lastly, are pets allowed? And again, that caveat there of what kind of pets are allowed, how many pets are allowed within a unit. Some apartment complexes require that you provide documentation on every single animal, including vet records. And if you don't have like proof within the last 6 months, then they'll reject your animal. And then if you get caught without it, you know, a whole scenario of a downward spiral, unfortunately. But things to consider, of course. I don't know if any of my other colleagues have other questions to pop in there that might be helpful to ask.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but speaking of pets, I know, well, you spoke of pets much earlier, and breed restrictions. I've had a few students have issues with pit bulls, bringing a pit bull to the city. From my understanding, I think that's been lifted, right? Yep. Okay, so if that's an issue for you, it's not an issue anymore.
So we also have a DU website all about off-campus housing. It's offcampus.du.edu. And here you can search for roommates, find other properties. It's linked to apartments.com. So it has all of the available kind of like properties as well as apartments listed. So it's similar to a Zillow, but like for students. It's got all sorts of different resources. And then it also has a compatibility to find a roommate. So you sign in and create like an account with this website, and then you can search and find, kind of list what your interests are in a home and find other people who have got those similar interests, and find roommates through this website. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really awesome resource that DU has. I did not have this in my undergrad, but this is an awesome website and I definitely recommend checking it out.
I also want to mention as well, not just this website, but external resources as well. Apartments.com, which this is in partnership with, I didn't know that they had this website whenever I was moving to Denver. So I literally used apartments.com. But I also wanted to plug, do not sleep on Craigslist, because whenever I came for that very quick trip to tour apartments, I actually had 3 different apartment complex managers cancel on me in the same day that I was supposed to get a tour. And I just happened to look at Craigslist on the same day, saw my apartment that did not require the pet deposit, and got to tour on the same day. So don't rule out Craigslist, definitely worth looking at, but of course, stay cautious. Do your research for sure.
And there was a question in the chat. Everyone's DU email. So mine is bryce.lowry@du.edu. So it'll be first.last@du.edu. Just similar to the off-campus housing, offcampus.housing@du.edu. So that should be your email.
Unless you have a common name.
That's true.
Awesome. And then touching on transportation, we mentioned it in the chat a little bit, but RTD is the means of public transportation around Denver, the city of Denver. And they have the light rail, which is similar to a train. I'd call it a train in my opinion, but not a traditional train. Again, coming from rural North Texas, we didn't have public transportation. So this was certainly a different experience for me, but I rode the light rail commuted from Littleton to downtown Denver weekly whenever I was working professionally prior to starting my graduate experience. I had the app on my phone. They have a ticketing app as well as a scheduler app, so you can see when the trains are going to come or what routes are coming, and you can even plan your entire trip straight from your phone. I would do that daily. And then I did put a note on the slide there that once you are all enrolled officially, it is included within your student, graduate student RTD pass fee. That's what it's going to appear as on your tuition bill, but that's already included in your tuition. So you're going to get one of those after you've already enrolled whenever you receive your student ID. But that grants you basically the ability to use all the RTD trains as well as the buses. Now, that does not include the train to the airport. That is totally different. That is actually going to require you to pay, but getting around the Denver area, getting to school, to the University of Denver, there's lots of lines that will take you all over. It'll take you to the far north, south, east, and west of Denver. There was a question about if they're located in suburban areas, if they're sparse, what does that look like? They are fairly frequent everywhere. And I'll be sure to link that as well, the website, into the chat. But you can check out all of the different lines and how they take students everywhere. And then here at the university, right on the other end of campus, actually, we have a station that pulls right up to campus. So you will not have any issues as far as transporting that way. I personally have not rode the buses. I haven't had the need to just yet, but those are frequently going as well. Those do drop by campus too. So if you have any questions specific to traveling and how you want to map out your route, I definitely encourage you to look at rtd-denver.com. Certainly worth looking into. And on the website, they have those apps that I mentioned, the ticketing app, as well as, but unless you don't have your student pass, you would have to buy a ticket. But they also have the route app on there as well to show you how to get to places.
And I have an editorial on the light rail. I've been in other places where public transit is kind of like dirty, grimy, like not very nice. This is really nice. This system, especially the light rail, it's a really nice system. So you don't have to like worry at all about riding it. I really like it.
That's
Yeah,
a
I've
very good
always
note.
felt very safe riding the light rail. Even in high school, I would go and my friends and I would take it alone, and it was very safe.
Same. And they do have security officers as well that frequent them. So at least one time during the ride, there's supposed to be a security officer that hops on and checks tickets and then just makes sure everything's chill. But very, very safe. And I did see a quick question in the chat. They do run on all types of weather. The only time I have seen it shut down is when we had, it was called something like a bomb blizzard or something
The bomb
last
cyclone.
year. Yes, it was wild. It was a crazy snowstorm that we had. And that's the only time I've seen it shut down. It does shut down at a certain point in the evening. I don't want to give you the incorrect information, but late into the evening, wee morning hours, it does shut down.
Also, when the Broncos won the Super Bowl, it shut down. There were just too many people trying to ride on it.
Cool. So Colorado has a ton of fun things to do, especially Denver. There's a zoo, there's a natural like science and history museum, which I have a membership to and I go all the time. We have botanic gardens, we have an awesome art museum. Larimer Square is pictured, the street with all the fun Colorado flags. That is an amazing just place to go hang out and get drinks and go shop in little boutiques. My favorite store there is called Garage Sale, and it's all vintage clothes and it's very fun. And I did share a link in the chat about student discounts. That's a website all about all the different discounts you can get in Colorado with your student ID. There's like food places, retail places, entertainment, like car insurance, transportation, all sorts of different stuff that you can get a discount on with your student ID in Colorado. And then Colorado also hosts a bunch of like free days. So there's the list there of the Children's Museum, the Clifford Still Museum, the Art Museum, the gardens, the parks, all of that. And then another really awesome thing is that Denver is within driving distance of the Rocky Mountains. So you can go hiking, go on a mountain trip, just go do mountain yoga, a picnic, fun national park explorations, anything you want, basically any weekend, anytime. They only really close down if there's like a blizzard and it's unsafe and the roads are shut down, which happens with the mountains. But I definitely recommend going out. And there's a picture there of all the different trails that are available that are just super, super close to Denver. Everyone here is very outdoorsy. I like to go hiking with my dog and my partner. It's very fun. So if you need any hiking recommendations, let me know. But yeah, Denver is an incredible city. It is so fun. Let me see. Ooh, okay, skiing. Yes, there are so many skiing places in Colorado. My family's favorite is Winter Park, Granby Ranch, that area. It's a little south in the mountains, but my family has been going there since my grandparents were little. Yep, Winter Park, Copper Mountain, Keystone, Loveland. There's so many. Aspen, all of them. All of them are great.
And I wanted to mention, I dropped a couple of links in the chat as well a little earlier, but the map that is referenced on the slide there is from alltrails.com. I definitely recommend checking that out if you want to start your outdoors adventuring. They have live updates of like people who've recently been on the trail who leave reviews about their experience, like the accessibility of them, and what they just generally think. Sometimes people post pictures. You can see if it's clear enough in the sky to get the beautiful mountainscape that you want in your photos, whatever you're doing. But that's a great place to look, as well as denver.org things to do. That lists all of like the local events that are happening in the Denver area, as well as the surrounding communities. So definitely check those out if you're just looking for like events and things to do. But I did want to mention that although it is a beautiful and amazing outdoor type state, not everyone is super into outdoors, and that's totally okay. There are a lot of awesome things to do in the state still. A lot of professional organizations and personal interest groups with not only on the campus, but in the broader community as well to connect with. Specifically, I'm thinking like LGBTQ organizations specifically in the area. Also, like I mentioned, breweries, there's distilleries. It's a hot eating spot. There's so much cuisine and different types of eating all over the area. That's what I like to do in my downtime, is just eat and have good food and hang out. So music scene is very popping as well. Considering the pandemic, obviously we haven't had a lot of action in the last year, but it is a large music scene. I definitely encourage you to check out Red Rocks Amphitheater. Even if you're not going to see a show, it's just like really cool to go see. Just seeing the natural formations. Yes, the natural formations of the rocks and just how the sound bounces off of them. Even if it's you just yelling out into the space, it's still very cool. But there are things to do if you're not so much into the outdoors like myself.
On the line of food, you have to try Colorado style pizza. If you go to Bojo's, you can get Colorado style pizza, and it's very important and it's delicious and it is the best.
And you have to go to the Bojo's in what's Idaho Springs.
Idaho Springs.
That's the best. Yeah, that's a great experience, and which is a good segue into that. I am also not very outdoorsy. I love skiing, but I've never skied in Colorado. But I just love going to just the mountain towns like Vail, Breckenridge, Idaho Springs, which is not far at all. And you could just get this, like, you just go there and you go eat and go shopping. And it's just this completely different atmosphere and environment if you're not used to mountains. And it's just beautiful. So you do not need to like do hiking or skiing in the mountains to really enjoy them. And the wildlife too, it's so cool. Oh yeah, and guess what, if you get a Christmas tree, you could actually go into the mountains and just cut down a tree, instead of, like, I'm from Indiana and we'd have like Christmas tree lots where you would cut down from like a farm, but here you could go into the mountains and cut down like the Griswolds and Christmas
My
vacation.
family does that every year. We just go up into the mountains and pick a tree.
And we go up and like a moose comes by your car. It's really cool.
So we wanted to open up some space. If y'all had any questions, you're welcome to shout them out, or you can chat them, however you feel the most comfortable.
Well, while we're waiting, I did kind of think of a question, which I have been asked before, and that is like, when is a good time to move?
Oh, how'd you know that?
That is exactly
Weird.
What?
I'm reading minds. Hey, Luke, we're on the same wavelength today.
Hannah. That's why.
Or Luke is just in the future.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. Hannah, do you want to answer?
Sure, I guess. So classes are, of course, not going to start. Well, majority of you is not going to start until the fall. There are some folks that might start in the summertime, dependent on your program. So definitely be sure to circle back on that if you have any specific questions. I will say that the cost of living and housing within the summer months does somewhat go up. There is a little bit of inflation during the summer months. So June, July, and August, you might see a little bit higher prices than you might be seeing right now. So if you have the chance to find your place and you find that magic spot and you can sign your lease a little bit earlier, definitely recommend that. But really just before your classes start would really be my answer. There's no perfect answer. It's really whatever is best for your situation. But considering again that Denver is unofficially sometimes referred to as a transplant state. So summertime is a very busy time where everybody's just flocking into the state. So those costs are going to be a little bit more inflated than normal. But definitely consider that. See if there is any discounts that you can get for being a student at the University of Denver or just being a student in general. But also potentially for signing earlier, you could potentially get discounts as well. So not a one size fits all answer, but definitely varies.
In the past, we've heard students that wanted to move to Denver early because they were going to be paying rent in their home state or in Denver, so they decided to move to Denver earlier and start to enjoy the summer months in a new state. And especially with the Facebook page, you know, people can start making friends and things of that nature, start hanging out with people so that you can get to explore Denver ahead of time before classes start. But we've seen students that move in September 12th, and that's fine as well. So whatever works for you. No, I'm not living in a cave. I'm sorry if my audio is sounding weird. I guess that I just won't talk to somebody else to answer John's question about parking, even though I'm the one who uses parking.
You do not have to opt into a parking pass. That's completely optional. If you do opt into a parking pass, it'll be, I think it's anywhere from like $20 to $50. There are covered spaces, like covered lots, very close to our building. So you could get like really prime spots like that. But then farther out, there are going to be just open air, like not in a garage. And those are the cheaper options. Like I said in the chat, I park in the streets just nearby. It's less than a mile away, and I just park. It's like a residential area, so I just park in the streets. It's free parking, and that has totally. I've been working here for 5 years, 6 years, yeah, and I've been doing that forever, and that works totally fine. But when I do take classes at night, walking back, even I don't really, you know, I walk a little faster. So it can be a little, I mean, not that the neighborhood is bad or anything, but just walking through a place that when it's pitch black isn't really great.
And what Rachel mentioned for students that live not as close to campus, that's exactly what I do. I pay the hourly fee. I only come to campus once or twice a week. So honestly, it's just much more affordable for me to pay $10 a day to park than to go get a parking pass. And there's lots of guest lots everywhere too that are very convenient.
And I will just add, because Noah brought up the point about campus safety, that we do have a campus safety office on campus. And so if you do park a little bit further, or even if you park down like across the street and you don't want to walk to your car or to your house by yourself, you can call campus safety at any time. And pro tip, if it is snowing or cold out, they will come in a car that has already been heated. So it may just be maybe you don't feel unsafe, but maybe you just want a warmer path to your destination and they can come pick you up. So definitely, I know they're underutilized. So I just like to talk about them because they're so nice. They're lovely people to chat with. Katie,
I'm
I-
looking it up right now.
I think it's T because it's under the tennis courts. So that's pretty close. The T lot is pretty close to the Mortgage College of Education in Catherine Raffato Hall, or another popular one is Evans, the E Garage. Both of those are covered and will be more expensive, but there is one that's a little bit further north of our building, and that's lot C or lot 108, depending on how they name it. And so it's a little bit further, but that one tends to be pretty convenient. It's really close to the highway. So if you're coming from I-25, that's really accessible to campus, and then you just walk in. And again, it's a little bit more affordable. But Katie, I think it's T because that's where
You're right, it is T.
You know what we haven't talked about, Noah, that we always like to talk about?
What's that?
Weather.
Oh yeah. Oh, you have the pictures right here.
Yeah, that's what I was reminded by. And, you know, weather actually is a topic of conversation in Colorado. We've already talked about the bomb cyclone. You know, Colorado weather gives us something to talk about, which is really interesting. Oh, TikTok foodie, love that. Thank you. And then, you know, there's 4 seasons, and these photos on the screen really kind of depict the 4 seasons. But sometimes in any given week, we can have all 4 seasons, like this week or last week or spring. Really, spring is when we get all 4 seasons.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I think Denver, we should start saying we have 3 seasons. Spring is not really a season. It basically, like, winter and summer just blend together. It is weird.
It's a combination of all the seasons right now. Spring is
And every year it's like that. This spring is my least favorite season
don't
here.
plant your flowers before Mother's Day. No, before Memorial Day, really, because it'll snow. But the weather's really nice here, and that's why it's so great to just get outside, even go for a walk with your animals or by yourself. Go up to the mountains, go to the parks, botanic gardens, all of those things. The weather's really mild, so that there's a lot of things to do outside, even if it is a little bit chillier.
It's very dry, so you will probably need a humidifier. It is very dry here, and yeah, so, and which makes the weather really pleasant, because in the summer it can be mid-90s, but you can go in the shade and the shade actually works, rather than places where it's humid, then it doesn't work. And in the yeah, so it's not nearly as hot, and then in the winter it doesn't feel as cold either because of the dryness. But yet we still get a lot of snow, but it's very sunny year round. So in the winter it'll be 30 degrees, but sunny and dry air, so it feels very warm. So that's a big difference compared to the rest of the country.
Do Bryce or Hannah want to, or both want to handle, I guess Hannah out of state, Shada's question?
Yeah, absolutely. So the process that I kind of went through, I basically went through every available housing site online that I could find. Like I mentioned earlier, apartments.com, Craigslist, Zillow were really the ones that I found to be best apartments for what I was looking for. Now I made an entire list of what I started from campus and then moved out from there, because I was really looking at proximity. And at the time that I was moving, just living as close to campus as I wanted to wasn't really financially a good spot for me. So I looked a little bit further out and ended up again in that Littleton area. Because of the pandemic, basically every apartment complex, townhouses, anything you can imagine, they're doing virtual tours. So if there is places that you're interested in, I would highly recommend reaching out to those leasing officers or apartment complex managers, seeing if they have the ability, if there's not already one posted online, if they could do a video tour for you, perhaps a Zoom tour. I have seen a little bit more accommodations around this time compared to back when I was moving. And then as far as having co-signers, that's going to be dependent totally on the person and the individual. Usually co-signers are dependent on your credit history and proven like income. But again, that's going to be dependent on your situation as well as what the apartment complex is going to require. So definitely a very good question to ask them if you will need a co-signer at the time you're searching. And then as far as any other recommendations as far as not being able to visit and see the place in person, again, just try to get a live representative on the phone or in a video chat so you really can see the conditions. And even if they can't show you the exact unit that you're going to be in, making note and having documentation of those discrepancies or nuances. So when the time move-in does roll around, if something's not there that you thought, like an in-unit washer and dryer, you can come back with those receipts and say, hey, knock this off my bill or whatever the case might be.
I forgot about that. I also moved to Denver from out of state when I came back, and I matched up with some roommates that I hadn't known before on a Facebook page, and we did a FaceTime tour. And so that was also a way to do it sight unseen, I guess. But Hannah, these tips are really helpful. I'm like writing them down when I move again.
Sorry, very last thing. If you all do have Facebook, the Facebook Marketplace, they now list housing options there, and more often than not, I see people looking for roommates than an entire unit being available. So if you're looking for a roommate situation, possibly look at the Facebook Marketplace. Now, not going to be limited to students. It might just be regular old people in the Denver area, but definitely could be an option. And there are like a lot of great houses too that people split up as far as roommate situations go. So don't roll those out.
For sure. And then we received a couple questions about COVID. So definitely understand that is a hot topic. And so we are hopeful and moving forward as though everything for fall will be like 90 to 95%, if not fully 100% back on campus. And so for all of your classes starting in the fall, that's what you can assume will be the case. The modality will be on campus in our building, and I am so excited to see you all. So excited. Seriously. But we actually just got news last week that all students for fall 21 will be required to provide proof of both COVID vaccines if you got the Moderna or Pfizer, or just the one for Johnson & Johnson. There are some exceptions. Not a ton, but if that is something that you are needing, definitely contact the Health and Counseling Center to get that exemption process rolling, because I think it will take a little bit longer than a normal exemption process. There are other vaccines that you will need to provide proof of as well. Mumps, measles, rubella, so that's MMR. Many of you probably had that from before you went to undergrad, things like that. So just think about that, getting it uploaded before you'll be on campus. And then this week, staff and faculty were just notified that we will also have to be providing COVID vaccination, proof of COVID vaccination come fall. So just know that as well, that it's not just for students, it is the whole University of Denver campus community. And, you know, like we've learned over the past so long, that things change a lot. And that is how we are moving forward. There will likely be changes that happen in the next couple of months, and we hope that those changes will not prevent you all from coming to campus in the fall, but we will be as communicative as possible. And just know that Twitter, you know, social media is going to be your fastest way probably to get this information, and the University of Denver website if you do not use Twitter. So that is a recommendation, that if you see something there and you haven't heard it from us, that is what we have to go with as well. But they're just faster.
And Ramona, to answer your question about, can you choose not to get vaccinated until you come to Denver? From my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, but you could do that, but you'd have to come early enough that you would have time to get the first dose and then the second dose, and then 2 weeks after that to be fully vaccinated. So you would have to be, you know, probably early August that you would have to be here.
Good question.